So what we want to do is we want to make a back wall, and the way we'll make a back wall is we're going to make a rectangle. Okay, and you want to make sure the tops of your rectangle and the bottom of your rectangle are parallel and horizontal, and the sides should be vertical. So we should basically have 90-degree angles here. So if I'm looking at my rectangle here, I could decide how tall is my room. And let's say I say my room is 8 feet tall, because that's an easy number to work with. I can then determine if that's 8 feet, I can pinch off this distance with my pencil, and I could turn it sideways and say my room is 8, 16, 20 feet wide. If I say that my room is 10 feet tall, then that means my room is 10, 20, 25 feet wide. I'm going to put my vanishing point somewhere inside this rectangle. I could put it right in the middle, I could put it slight right and slight left. But here's what you have to realize. The vanishing point is the height of your eyes off the floor. So let's say this is an 8-foot ceiling in my picture. I know that from floor to ceiling is 8. Half of that would be 4. So I could be in this range. Maybe I'll put mine right there. Okay, this is where the magic happens in turning this into a real room. We're going to have lines going out from the corners to create the sense of a floor, a ceiling, and 2 sidewalls. Let me start on this lower corner. I'll put my pencil on the corner. I'm going to aim it exactly to the vanishing point, but instead of drawing to it, I'm going to draw off of it, off the paper. And I'm going to repeat that for the rest of the corners. The thing I really want to stress here is that these are not just diagonal lines that are randomly coming off the vanishing point or off the corners. They are indeed coming from the vanishing point exactly. And if you don't stick to that, the illusion of rational three-dimensional space is broken. Okay? All right, so I've turned my picture into a realistic space. So let's start by making like a door opening in this back wall. So because this is the back wall, it's facing us directly, everything is going to be straight and 2-dimensional. So I'm going to make a rectangle where the door is perfectly vertical, parallel to the corner. And if this is an 8-foot ceiling, then I imagine the door would probably come up maybe about that high. And then the other side of the door would be parallel to that. I'll make it kind of a wide opening. And then the top needs to be straight and parallel to the ceiling line, like that. So at this point, I have a rectangle. Now that could be a door that's closed, could be a door that's open, or it could be just a rectangular opening. Maybe there's no door, maybe it's just an entryway. And I'm gonna make it an entryway. But the thing is, it doesn't look like you can go through it. It just looks like a rectangle on a wall right now, okay? So 2 things I'm gonna do is I'm gonna give the wall thickness. This wall right now, if this is an opening, this wall looks like it's made of paper or cardboard. But I want to simulate, and simulate is a key word to use. I want to simulate thickness. So all I'm going to do is I wouldn't be able to see the thickness on this side because it's on the right side of my vision. But if I take this corner and this corner and aim them to the vanishing point just a little bit, like this, I'm just going to aim it a little bit to simulate the thickness of a wall, just like that. And then where I think the thickness should be, I will put a cutoff line in, there to there. And then believe it or not, there's a corner right here where I should have a line showing up there. And if you do that right, it gives the illusion that there's thickness to this wall. And it wasn't really that hard. I just had to know what I was doing. But still, what is it that we are walking into? The key is this wall. This wall in here is going to be the same wall as this. So all I have to do is come back to this line. With my vanishing point, I'm going to line back up to the line I drew earlier, which is this one. And then I'm going to skip over and then continue the line this way. Furthermore, the ceiling has to be addressed same way. It so happens that I barely would see anything right there. But if you see it in your drawing, you'd want to draw it. But the idea is this line passes through and continues on the other side, underlapping this thick wall. What if I want to put a back wall on this room? So all I'm going to do now is I'm going to put in a corner to this room. I can erase a little bit of this line where I want the corner to be. And then from this spot, I will go vertical and horizontal to create a floor line. And what I've done in there is I have established a back corner to that room. All right, so let's try out putting a door on the side wall, because we put an opening on the back wall here and it's straight and two-dimensional because we're facing it. It's a different approach if we want to put a door on the side wall. Now, if there's a door on this side wall, in real life, we should probably assume it's the same height as this door, because that's how doors are in a similar space most of the time. So watch this. To do that, I'm going to go to the top of this door that I've already drawn, and I'm going to track it. I'll use a dotted line, but you wouldn't have to, but I'm going to track it to the corner of the room. I will take that spot, aim it directly to the vanishing point, and if I make a really light guideline like this, that guideline indicates that any door I put over here, that would be the top of that door. So now I just have to worry about where do I want to put the door. So how about I put one right here? So this would need to be a vertical line from the floor to my top. And then I'm going to estimate where I think the other side of the door should be. And I'll make another vertical line. And just for the sake of understanding, I will boldface this line again. All right. At that point, I probably don't need this guideline, but I'm 100% certain in this illusion that the top of this door is the same height as the top of that door. Okay, so now we have the same problem as we did before. We want this wall to have thickness, so it doesn't look like you're passing through a piece of paper, right? So all we have to do is add a little thin rectangle off of this line at first. So little thin rectangle off of these two corners. And now that wall has thickness. Technically, when I made a little rectangle, there's a little corner right here that I would aim to off the vanishing point, and I would also do that. And that would show us the underside of that archway. All right, so now we have the same problem though. What are we walking into? Do we want this wall to pass through? I'm going to give us a couple scenarios. Remember, we know that if we were outside, that the vanishing point would be on the horizon line. So if I want this to be outdoors, I can put my pencil on the vanishing point, create a perfectly horizontal setup, and if I made a line right here, that would be the sky and the ground horizon line. So if I did want to show a horizon line out there, I can't randomly put it out there. I need to make sure it coincides with my vanishing point level. So that's one example. I'm going to erase that and also talk about some other examples. If I wanted this to be a large room, maybe this back wall continues in there, So I could put my straight edge on this little line right here, this floor line, and I could let that pass through. It would be like this wall and this wall coincide. Furthermore, this is a little tricky, but technically if this line were to hit this line, this back wall corner, it'd be right there, and then therefore that ceiling line would be in there as well. So that makes that look like a very large room where this wall and this wall are shared. But I'm going to erase that too and show you another scenario where maybe this front wall passes through. And if I do that, I'll take this floor line here, skip over and let it show up in here. And this ceiling line would do the same thing, however, it's not visible to me, so I can ignore that. And now it looks like I'm stepping into a room that's not as large and that this wall and this wall are shared. Another thing I want to show you on here, we'll use the other wall, is windows. Okay, windows are very similar to doors. What I can do is figure out where would the top of the window and the bottom of the window be with respect to maybe the corner of the room. So if I wanted the top of the window to be here, or maybe I could make it even with the top of the door, maybe I want to do that, which would be here. Then I aim that to the vanishing point and I can say here's the top of any windows that I would make. And then I could say, well, I'd like the bottom of the windows to maybe be right here. So I aim that to the vanishing point, and that helps me make this line. So I've created the top and bottom edge of windows, and the sides of the windows, the up and down portion, they need to be truly vertical, parallel to the corner of the room. So if I'm going to have one right here, my straight edge needs to be parallel to this. I can draw that. And if it's a very large window like this, I can do that over here. If I wanted to split this into smaller windows, that would be easy to do. Let's say I want to split it in half with a pane. I want to find the middle. So if I go corner to corner in each direction, that the center of that X indicates the center of the window in perspective. And then that would be the vertical center, and I'll give that a little double line. I could also give it a little bit of a double line all the way around. Remember, using the vanishing point anytime I'm going distance. And that gives it a little bit of extra validity in terms of it having thickness. Let's say I wanted to give it some little rail or edging here. Right at the base, I can draw a two-dimensional shape. And then I'll just make that 3D with the vanishing point. And then cut it off properly. And now it's sort of like we've got some trim right there, or a chair guard. I could do the same thing up top. Maybe it's a curtain rod, so I'll make a circle right there. And then I'm going to make that circle 3D using the vanishing point. And then cut it off appropriately with a half circle. It's like I've made a curtain rod. And at that point, I could start to simulate curtains. If I want this to line up over there, I'll aim that toward the vanishing point, and it appears to be about here. And then, of course, I could do some erasing. Nobody likes to erase on their drawing, right? But sometimes you got to do what you got to do for the artwork. And now the curtains I just made look solid. Just adding some cool little wrinkle effects. Kind of go out 3D a little bit. Let's say I wanted a bar this way, so I found the middle there. I'll aim that to the vanishing point and do a double line to the vanishing point and do that. That's kind of fun too. So from here, I'm going to just add some additional details. And remember, this vanishing point gets erased later. You can put all kinds of decorations on the wall. Let's say I wanted a little shelf on the wall right here. I could make a long, thin rectangle. Of course, it needs to be a straight rectangle. And then make it 3D to the vanishing point. And of course, it's so close to the vanishing point that you wouldn't see a lot. So that could be something on the wall. But if there was something higher on the wall, then that would allow us to see the underside of that shelf to the vanishing point. Like that. So this shelf is just below our eye level. If there were like, let's say there were, you know, some flowers or sculptures on there, we'd see it like that. But if there was something up here, maybe little trophies, we'd be seeing them from a lower level. Let's say that we want to put a couch right here. The thing about a couch is every single thing you would ever want to draw in perspective, the best way to do it is think of it as its most basic forms. A couch would be sort of like, if I was viewing it from the side, it could be thought of as a box and another box on top of it, and maybe the arm of the couch is another box. So I could think of it as a series of boxes, right, with details. And if I can build that in perspective, I'm good to go. So if I had a couch that was up against this wall, I can say here's the width of the couch here to say here. From this spot, I will aim to the vanishing point and I will draw outward to figure out where I would like the front of the couch to be. So from this spot, I can go horizontal and I can draw the front of the couch as a box. Like that. And I wouldn't be able to see through the couch, so now all this will get erased. And then I'll use the vanishing point to make this 3D, like I'm making a 3D box, no different. But the key is the cutoff. It's up against the back wall, which I erased, but I can still see it's about right here. So the cutoff has to be here. So if it comes up, this would be the cutoff of that box. So it's just a box. But now, on top of this box, I can make another thin rectangle, which is going to be like the backrest of the couch. Similar to that, and then I can use the vanishing point to make that 3D. And I'll cut it off very thin. So right now it looks like a really awkward type of a bench to sit on, but now I can actually use this as a structure to deviate and make it more like a couch. An example would be maybe this is more rounded in the front and a little bit more cushiony. And maybe it's divided into 3 parts like cushions. Now where it's divided, I'll aim that to the vanishing point and do that to establish the cushions on the surface of the couch. And I can kind of do a little bit of curving. Down here, maybe it's more of a skirt, like a cloth, wavy skirt. Maybe a little bit of a foot right here. a foot right here and maybe one in the middle. Maybe this is going to be more pillow-ish. And from these cushions, I can simulate that as well. So what I'm doing is I'm using the initial box as a structure for the couch. But then I get to use my creativity to deviate from that. Maybe there's an arm of the couch, and the front of the arm would be, maybe it's a bump like this. And then all I have to do is take the top of that to the vanishing point, and then cut it off right here. And then I could erase what I would see through there. And then I'll repeat that over here, the same size bump for the arm. I'll aim that to the vanishing point, and I'll cut it off right where it hits the cushion. That would go to the vanishing point right there. Now that couch has some arms. So that's how you can go about drawing a couch from the front. If you wanted to do a couch from the side, best way to do that would be, or a chair from the side, or a couch, it doesn't matter, but the best way to do that would be to draw it from the side. I'll put one right over here. Now remember, my eye level's 4 feet. So how high do I want the chair off the wall? How about this high? And I can kind of visualize maybe a recliner type chair from a 2-dimensional point of view. And then I use the vanishing point to make this chair have thickness. Now if I make it really long, it would be more like a, probably more like a couch, but I want it to be more like a chair. And then I have to draw this line here. So remember, this whole area is like the front of the chair that's facing us. And then we went to the vanishing point like this, and then we cut it off. What if there was something on the wall above the chair? Maybe it's a TV, maybe it's a picture. Really easy way to do that is, if it's a thin TV that's wall mounted, I could think of this as a thin rectangle. That's the edge of the TV facing me, or the edge of the picture facing me. And then I'll just use the vanishing point and make that 3D, and then cut that off appropriately. If I wanted the TV to be angled, I would have just made this rectangle angled. Okay? Now if this had a little frame to it, the top and bottom of that frame would use the vanishing point, and then the sides of the frame would be vertical. And I could just put a little glare on it, simulated glare with some lines like that. Okay, what if we want something on the floor, like a carpet? I like to start further away and build forward. So if the carpet was out in front of the couch from here to over here, let's say it's wavy, I'll just freehand kind of a wavy horizontal line, and then this is the corner. From the vanishing point, it would do that, and then over here, from the vanishing point, it would do that. And where do I want the cutoff to be? How about right here? So I'll make another wavy line that goes off the paper. I can also turn these orthogonal lines into waviness. And then anything I do on the carpet for design needs to follow rules of perspective. Which, by the way, if this carpet has a little thickness, maybe I'd want to slightly double this line right here. That kind of simulates that it's got some thickness. It's not just a piece of paper on the floor. Okay, so anything that is design-wise horizontal would be horizontal. Anything that is going this way would use the vanishing point. And you can freehand from the vanishing point as long as you're doing it on purpose. If I wanted to find the middle of this, I could go corner to corner and corner to corner. So about right here's the middle. You know, maybe I could put some spirals on it, make it kind of a weird carpet. Now, because this part's in the foreground, I probably want this stuff up close to be more bold. Because it's a little bit more detailed, we need it to be more attention grabbing. And then these details here might be bold, and then fade to weak. So that's how you can do a carpet. If you wanted tiles on the floor, let's say we just want tiles in this other room, what I'm going to do is pretend that I have a line right here. And this might be my first set of tiles. And maybe I want the tiles to be this far apart. So I have to visualize this all the way to the corner. Then I could take each one of those lines to the vanishing point, but only draw the parts that I would see toward the vanishing point. Sort of like I'm making floorboards. Similar to that. So now I have these floorboards that I've made in there. I've got a horizontal line. So now I have 2 squares. So if I take this corner and aim it through that corner of that square and go all the way back, I have additional intersection points that I can work with. And by the time I get back here, I can just fake it, I think, and turn that into shading. The key is if I'm doing details in the second room away, I don't want to be too sharp and detailed with it because I want the viewer to just let that be part of the distant detail, not the up-close detail. Couple quick things. Let's say we want to simulate some action on the ceiling. Again, if it's ceiling tiles, come off the vanishing point for your distance and stay horizontal for these lines. If I was going to put ceiling lights on the ceiling, if it's up here, that means it's closer to us, more above the carpet. Maybe I do an oval. Find the middle, and I can do some really cool, intricate chandelier things. But if I wanted to do something like that over the couch, then that would be right here, and it would need to be a smaller oval, and I could do the same thing, but it would all be much smaller because it's further away. Okay. So you can do all kinds of things to your room. You can make it inspired by your own room or a place out of your head. It's totally up to you.